There's a moment, usually sometime after 65, when people look at their TFSA and realize something feels different. For decades, it was the account you tried to maximize, protect, and barely touch, almost like you were saving it for a version of the future that always looks so far away. But when you actually start living in the future, the relationship with that account shifts. The stakes feel higher, the decisions feel heavier, and suddenly the TFSA becomes the one piece of your retirement toolbox that you're almost afraid to use. And that's what caught my attention years ago, because I kept meeting people who had done well, built solid retirement plans, and felt confident about their savings. Yet they treated their TFSA like a fragile object that needed to be preserved forever. Hi, I'm Tom Porteous, Senior Investment Advisor at BPS Wealth Management at Canaccord Genuity. And what I've learned working with people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond is this. The TFSA can be one of the most powerful flexible income tools you have in retirement, but only if you stop using it in the same way that you did earlier in life. There's a quiet turning point in retirement planning that most people don't notice right away. It's the shift from building wealth to arranging it. That transition isn't marked by a birthday or a government rule, it's marked by a feeling, a moment when you realize that the purpose of your accounts has changed. The TFSA is often the clearest example of that shift. You spend decades hearing the same advice. Contribute consistently, let it grow tax-free, and avoid touching it so the compounding keeps working for you. And that mindset works beautifully during your earnings years. You're accumulating, planning ahead, and pushing as much as possible into the future. But when retirement arrives, the job description of your money changes completely. Your financial life becomes less about how big can I make this, and more about how do I use this wisely over the next 30 years or more? And that's where people get stuck because they carry their old habits with them. The biggest TFSA mistake I see people make after 65 is simple. They continue protecting it like it's something fragile, like it's still the account they need to lock away. But the truth is the opposite. In retirement, the TFSA becomes the account that gives you the most freedom, the most flexibility, and the most control over your taxes and income. It's the only account that doesn't punish you for using it. No forced withdrawals, no tax slips, no impact on OAS, no rules dictating timing, no tax bracket jumps, no surprises. So when people avoid using it, the pressure goes somewhere else. And it's usually the worst possible place. They end up withdrawing more taxable income than they need to. Their RRIF starts working harder than it should. Their non-registered account thins out faster than expected. Their OAS becomes vulnerable to clawbacks. And all the while, the simplest source of tax-free liquidity sits untouched. This isn't a dramatic mistake. It's subtle. It builds slowly. And only you can see the consequences years later when your tax bill is higher than it needed to be, or when your flexibility is lower than you expected. I've seen this play out in many different ways. People will go out of their way to avoid touching their TFSAs. They'll sell investments in a non-registered account and take on taxable gains. They'll increase withdrawals from their RRIF even when they don't need that much more income. And they'll do it because they believe the TFSA must be preserved. But the TFSA isn't a break glass in case of emergency account. It's a tool, a surprisingly powerful one, that's meant to take pressure off of everything else. That's why I often describe it as a release valve. Your TFSA can smooth your income. It can reduce tax spikes. It can protect your government benefits. It can give you breathing room in volatile markets. And it can do this consistently year after year after year without complications. If you want to see how this type of flexibility might fit into your own plan, feel free to book a time below. It only takes a few minutes, but it can save you years of frustration. A TFSA after 65 does three things exceptionally well. First, it protects your tax rate. People forget that even small increases in taxable income can push you into a new range, and that affects much more than just taxes. It affects benefits too. It affects credits. It affects the long-term efficiency of your withdrawals. A TFSA allows you to shape your income intentionally rather than being pushed into higher tax brackets because of RRIF or non registered withdrawals. Second, it protects your investment timing. Markets aren't predictable. There will always be years when selling from a non registered account means realizing gains at the wrong time, or selling them from a RRIF means shrinking an account you'd rather delay drawing from. A TFSA gives you space to wait for a better moment. The third benefit is personal. It gives you the freedom to live the way you want. Retirement has phases. Early years are active, middle years, you settle. Later years are quieter, and each phase comes with its own spending pattern. Your TFSA adapts to all of them. If you want to travel more in your early retirement, the TFSA can support that without triggering extra tax. If you want to help family during a high income year, the TFSA can do that without consequence. If you need to reduce taxable income temporarily because of health related benefits, the TFSA becomes a quiet solution in the background. That's why I see the TFSA as more than an account. It's part of the rhythm of your retirement income. And there's another dimension worth considering: your estate. People often assume withdrawing from the TFSA means losing future growth. But in reality, using your TFSA well today often strengthens what you leave behind. It gives your beneficiaries assets that arrive cleanly, simply, and without tax surprises. It gives your spouse the ability to absorb TFSA assets without complication. It even allows you to reduce the size of the taxable accounts that eventually flow through your final return. In other words, using your TFSA doesn't diminish what you pass down. In many cases, it becomes a meaningful part of preserving it. But this only happens if you shift your mindset. The question changes from, how do I protect this account, to, how can this account protect the rest of my plan? That's where the real value emerges. And I've seen it many times. Sometimes it's the client who wants to retire at 63, but is worried about drawing too much from taxable accounts before CPP and OAS begin. The TFSA becomes their bridge. Sometimes it's the client whose RRIF withdrawals are large enough to push them towards OAS tax clawbacks. A few months of TFSA withdrawals can calm the storm. And sometimes it's as simple as giving someone confidence that they can enjoy their retirement without feeling like every decision comes with a tax consequence attached. That's the part people underestimate. A TFSA isn't just a financial tool, it's a psychological one. It reduces anxiety, it reduces uncertainty, it reduces the fear of making the wrong move. Because there is no wrong move inside a TFSA. Every withdrawal is clean, every decision is reversible, and every dollar stays out of the tax system permanently. So if you're 65 or approaching it, here's a gentle question worth thinking about. Am I holding on to this TFSA because it's the right move for my plan, or because it's a habit from my savings years? Those two motivations lead to very different outcomes. Retirement isn't about maximizing one account, it's about arranging your dollars in a way that gives you control, not tension. And the TFSA, used intentionally, gives you more control than any other account you have. At some point, financial planning stops being about growing your wealth and starts being about arranging it wisely. If you want a second opinion on your plan, book a time with me using the link in the description below.